Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, dear guests from near and far, it's my great pleasure to welcome you all in such a great number to BOKU University for today's celebration. It is both a joy and a special honor to greet you on this significant day, on which we bring together two important occasions: the official farewell of Professor Lilli Lička from her active career at BOKU, and the presentation of the 7th edition of the book series Landscape Architecture Europe with the fitting title Full of Life. Let me extend a particularly warm welcome to Professor Lilli Lička, today's guest of honor and one of the most influential voices in landscape planning and architecture in Austria and far beyond. Professor Luiten from the Delft University of Technology, President of the Landscape Architecture Europe. I think this has already deserved some applause. Welcome, both of you. I'm not yet finished with my list, and we will make an applause occasionally, I would say. So welcome to Mrs. Anna Detzelhofer, President of the Austrian Society of Landscape Architecture. Professor Attila Todt from Slovakia. Great. Representing the International Federation of Landscape Architects. And now in alphabetical order, Professor Susan N., Vienna University of Technology. Professor Bernadette Blanchot, École supérieure du paysage Versailles, Paris. Professor Lisa Diedrich, University of Buenos Aires, and Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences. Professor Anna Kuchan, University of Ljubljana. Dr. Claudia Moll, Federal Office of the Environment in Bern, Switzerland. Professor Richard Stiles, or Stiles, I don't know. Stiles, Vienna University of Technology, welcome. Professor Catherine Santo, École Nationale Supérieure d'Architecture Paris-La Villette. Professor Jérôme de Vries, Le Notre Institute. Professor Robin Winogrand, landscape architect from Zurich and member of the BOKU Stakeholder Board. Welcome. Welcome also to the former chair of the Senate of BOKU, Professor Gerda Schneider. And to the head of the Department for Landscape, Water and Infrastructure, Professor Gernot Stöckliner. Last but not least, a very warm welcome to Vice Rector for Teaching, Doris Damjanovic. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being here, for your strong connection to BOKU, and especially to the Institute of Landscape Architecture. Lilli Lička is a person who has left a deep mark not only at BOKU University, but also in the national and international professional community. Her name stands for a determined, creative, connective, and deeply committed form of landscape architecture. One that bridges science, society, design, and responsibility. After completing her studies in landscape ecology and landscape planning at BOKU University in 1989, she gained experience in both practice and research, including in the Netherlands. From 1991 to 1916, she co-led the renowned office Kose-Lička with Ursula Kose, focusing on parks, gardens, public spaces, and socially sustainable urban structures. Her appointment to BOKU University in 2023 marked a milestone for the discipline. With her, the term landscape architecture was introduced as both the name of the institute and the concept for the curriculum. She was not only a professor of design and its theory, but also chaired the curriculum committee drove the EU accreditation of the program, and served for many years on the Senate Study Commission. Through this, she laid the foundation for the international recognition of our degrees. In research, Lilli Lička has made a remarkable contribution to contemporary landscape architecture, public space and parks. Her projects on green post-war modernism for the Vienna Museum and the 400-year history of gardens at the Austrian National Library reached a broad audience. Topics such as green space justice, public space, climate change, and arts-based research shaped her academic agenda. She placed special emphasis on advancing design as a research-led practice. Working in interdisciplinary teams, she promoted the integration of design, social, ecological approaches, and landscape architecture. Projects like the investigation of public parks' effects, studies on street space transformation, and her work on plant use in the context of climate change are just a few examples of the broad scope of her research efforts together with her team. A major milestone in her academic work was the integration of L-Archiv into BOKU. This archive of landscape architecture now serves as the key research hub for the history of landscape architecture in Austria. Thank you for that. Moreover, she co-founded the European Network of Landscape Architecture Archives, which today includes members of 24 countries. She also made outstanding contributions in teaching. Her passion for design and working with physical models was tangible in her courses. The BOKU Teaching Award 2017 is a testament to her excellence. I would also like to highlight the Learning Landscape Initiative, which has taken place every January for over a decade, opening student work to a broad audience. Lilli Lička has supervised more than 100 theses, served on numerous habilitation and appointment committees, taught students in international workshops, and fostered a strong dialogue with professional practice. Her commitment to the profession extended beyond the university. As president of the Austrian Society for Landscape Planning and Landscape Architecture, as initiator of the Next Land collection and the lecture series L hoch X, through which she brought international expertise to Vienna. Her connections to the institutions such as the Architekturzentrum Wien and the Urbanize Festival have made the field more visible and advanced in Austria. Dear Professor Lička, dear Lilli, on behalf of BOKU and personally, I would like to thank you warmly for your tireless work, your visionary spirit, and your dedication to teaching, research, practice, and society. You have not only shaped but expanded and stimulated the field of landscape architecture at our university. We wish you all the very best for this new chapter in your life. Time for new projects, contemplation, travel, family, and friends. We hope and look forward to staying connected with you as a researcher, colleague, critical thinker, and inspiring visionary. All the best. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank everyone who has contributed to today's event. The Institute of Landscape Architecture, our colleagues involved in the organization, the contributors to the Landscape Architecture Europe volume, and all those who made this day so special. And now I would like to hand over to Professor Luiten. Thank you very much.
So, welcome also on my behalf. My name is Luiten. I'm from the Netherlands, from Delft University. I'm also a landscape architect by training and by profession, so I feel at home That's basically what I can say. Let's turn this into a dense program, which might take 3/4 of an hour after this. So bear with me, bear with us. Let's check who's in the room. Direct colleagues of Lilli. Hands. Okay, so it's this group here. Ex alumni, ex students of Lilli. Yeah, there might be overlap. There's many. You're still in touch with them, partly, I guess. Yeah. Actual students, current students from Lilli. Only one, 2. So it's going down, the number of students. Okay, they have work to do. Yeah, I know. So friends and family, many. I guess you're all friends, but then there's friends and friends, of course, yeah. Any journalists in the room? Yeah? Are you making notes? Good. So we can speak freely, I guess. Yeah, you. Are you a professional journalist, or you are? Okay. So I'm asking because I had a problem a few years ago with. I didn't know there was journalists in the room, and I sort of gave away something, and it was in the newspaper the next Monday, and it was really dramatic. So I'm just checking every time I have meetings like this. Anyway, let's move forward. We have a beautiful lineup of people who are going to present stuff, and it's, you know, as Frau Rector has explained, it's a sort of a meandering going through both the book presentation as well as the farewell ceremony. Well, not the ceremony, the farewell event of Lilli. So it's going to be a beautiful trip through many types of input and emotions, I guess. Let's see how this works for the rest of the afternoon. So, next in line, let's focus on the book first, and then let's focus on Lilli afterwards, okay? Lisa Diedrich, who has been editor-in-chief for many years already, in charge of, let's say, the digesting of the selection and putting that into words, and always forming a team around her who's able and capable enough to get this writing done. She has a presentation for you. It's called Aesthetics in the Anthropocene. Is that correct? Yeah. So Lisa, if you want, you can take the floor and give us something about the procedure, the content of the book as well. So this is meant to make you curious, huh? And remember, the book is available afterwards with a strong discount of 15%. So don't let Harry and Daphne move back by car with, again, so many books, as many books as they brought with them. So please make us lighter. Can we have less light here in the front? Is that possible? Because then the images will show better. Yeah?
Good. Yeah, so this is a great moment. Thank you for being together, and thank you, Lilli, for inviting us to share this wonderful event with you. Thank you for welcoming us at this place that's truly in the center of Europe. And I'm just coming back from Argentina, so I'm still in phase of acclimatization. It's wonderful to be back in Europe after a long time elsewhere, but also seeing from elsewhere what Europe is, which is sometimes easier if you have been away. And that's why I'm particularly pleased to present the latest, youngest edition of Landscape Architecture Europe to you, number 7. That's quite a number. We called it Full of Life. And that's a little bit the content in a nutshell that I would like to introduce you today through a couple of slides, and doing so, opening up the book for the first time before you hand it in your hands as a material, an artifact also. But I think it is interesting to meander through the pages, and I will be followed by Daphne, who also takes another angle to this presentation, because a book is also something that is as much designed as landscapes are. So the endeavor of Landscape Architecture Europe all started with a person
Dutch landscape architect, some of you might know, Michael van Gessel, who has been the initiator, as I always call it, of the whole project when he was a delegate to IFLA, which is the IFLA Europe, the Organization of European Landscape Architects, telling them, and that was in the early 2000s, that we need to make a statement to go out and tell about what we are doing, and also in a particular way. And as you can see from these images, he's a person of expression. He says what he likes, fond of scale, spacious projects, but he also says what he does not like, hate to just adding things to show that you've been there out in the landscape. So there's a program or a programmatic take to Landscape Architecture Europe, which I think is pretty much following his spirit, and also the place where he comes from, the Netherlands. So the home base of Landscape Architecture Europe has been for long years in Wageningen. Now it's moved to Ede, but the Schip van Blauw, a building of the Amsterdamse School, was where we met with a jury over many years. And you see several instances of the jury in these slides, where we discussed projects that were handed in to us from offices all over Europe. And it was not only an activity about sitting in a classroom and judging projects, we also went out. If any project was close by, we would test what we were discussing about out there in the material itself, which we were dealing with, landscape. And that also shaped the method we have been attributing to Landscape Architecture Europe since the start, which is being situated in one of these cultural landscapes, as you can see here, the Nederrijn in the Netherlands, where our home base is, which also was what then somehow needed to go into the pages of the book, needed to go into our heads, into our reflections. And that's where we set up a method, a clear procedure, which has a foundation as a basis, that has rules, that raises funds, that issues a call for entry, that goes out into these landscapes, which is heard by offices all over, who then send in their topical projects, whatever they think is of their production that matters most to them and should matter for Europe. A jury comes together to then display all of those against each other, and Europe is big and diverse, so that's always a big endeavor, discussing and selecting projects in order to select those ones that are then presented in the book. And doing this is also meaning making, and that's mostly what I think we as editors are then busy with when we start to observe the jury sessions, start to pose questions to the selection committee members, and then at the end forge discourse, which is then the one also that you will see and be able to read through pictures and texts in the book. A book is to be prepared as an artifact. So we have some sort of factory also always ongoing, which then at the end produces the book. So that you see at the end there's a book coming out of the process. But one book is one book, and then there's more out there in the landscape. Offices continue to build, design goes on, time goes on, changes. So with our concept, we also have the idea that we are, each time a book is done, evaluating how it has been done in order to then better be able to continue observing practice. Next time, again, interpreting practice. But maybe we need to change from book to book because everything around us has changed. So there's a dynamism to it, just as we all know very well in landscape that life is made of. There's nothing that's stable. Everything is on the move. And so over the years, and it's now a quarter century that we have been starting with founding LAE and then producing books, we can now look back at critical reflection of practice, but also for practice. In changing expressions again, and you can already see that also the graphic design and the format of the books have been changing because everything else around was changing. Today, the 7th edition is ready for you to be browsed through, to be acknowledged, and as all the previous ones, it's teamwork. It has been made, and you see here, by a couple of people who have been coming together in the jury, which has been headed by Jannik Hoekstra. We have had Merle Karo Kalberg from Estonia, and I think she should be here today, over there. Hi, Merle. There was Martin Allik from Mareld, Sweden. I don't think he could come. And there was Fujan Fahmi, MOFA office from Switzerland. I think she might be here, not sure. And Martina Principale, who has been nominated to the jury but finally couldn't make it, so we had to do the selection without her. On the editorial team, with me as a chief editor, as Eric has said, we have had Claudia Moll, who is here, from Zurich. We've had Sonja Curnier from Lausanne, who could not come, and Anaïs Leger-Smith from Toulouse, who also couldn't make the long way from France. And we are always super happy with our production team, which is Daphne de Bruijn, graphic designer and managing editor, who's here and will speak to you in a couple of minutes, and Harry Hasema, who's over there, who's the graphic designer too, and the producer. And also the head of the publisher, as you can see here, called Blauwdruk, situated in the Netherlands. So what I will present to you has been made by all these people. And not only because, as Daphne will also show you much more in detail, there's a lot of offices behind, which of course the production is major because it's built landscape. What we put into the book is somehow always a synthesis of the jury work that's been carried out over 4 full days when we meet in place in the Netherlands, directed by the jury chair, Jannik Hoekstra, who I have a quote from. He cannot be with us any longer. He, unfortunately and very sadly, passed away just a year ago, very suddenly from a stroke. But we have dedicated this book to him, and his idea, I think, is also transported through the pages. And as you can see here, he says that design today needs context awareness, historical, topographical, social, mental, spiritual, and it must deal with the grand challenges Europe is facing, such as polarization in society, climate change, energy transition. This leads me to the title of my talk, which is more or less, as I said, also a synthesis of what we have been discussing in the jury and editorial teams over those weekends we have been together in the Netherlands. And I summarize it as under a topic that's, I think, becoming quite, it has been sidelined, I think, a lot, but it is coming to surface, and it was surfacing massively in the jury discussions, which is a talk about aesthetics. And not any aesthetics, but in this particular epoch that's sometimes called the Anthropocene. For, as you all probably know in a landscape audience, the massive impact humankind is having on all things planetary, and is often seen as a massive damage. So we discussed, we had walks, we had site or project visits. We were very much into our job to select projects and take out the essence of what designers today would tell us, also through their form making, through their projects, and that's, of course, aesthetics. It is, I think, also notable that you might be thinking it's frivolous to talk about form, space, beauty in the Anthropocene, surrounded by all these crises that we are hearing today or reading each morning on the newspaper. But in this group of people, we thought that talking about these issues, taking aesthetics seriously, is exactly how we can stay alive. We are convinced that designing landscapes is an activity in support of life and its inherent beauty, and that shaping space makes a difference in building social, ecological, and economic realities, that their aesthetics can convey concern, empathy, critique, taking a position, commitment, engaging, and also to collaborate with others who are likewise concerned in order to provoke change. Because sometimes change is happening, but we might want to have a say and contribute to steering this change. And at the end also, in the face of all these crises, there might be a way to defy despair through design, because it's active. We can still shape something. And in this respect, instead of understanding the Anthropocene as an antechamber to apocalypse, landscape architects, we think, know how to mobilize their willpower and their creativity to initiate change for the better and the more beautiful. And I think at Landscape Architecture Europe, we have always voiced this call, and we also will continue to do so in order to leave behind potentially also the certainties of a 20th century where things were perceived as much more stable, but also at the moment now, which we think is necessary to challenge backward-looking professional mainstream and greenwashing political correctness, with the intent of transcending the boundary of what established actors sometimes define as good practice. We think not good enough. So our mission has always been to take one step ahead with each book, one more, to keep collective criticism awake, and with it, the profession alive. That's where the title comes from, alive. So over this introduction, which you can read then more in detail when you hold the book in your hands, I'm developing the main concepts that we have been developing and discussing throughout the jury sessions. One main topic was to hear the jury debating in, should we more green or should we more sculpt? So there was an antagonism, also potential postures of greening versus sculpting, where the ones were more convinced about biodiversity, the others were more convinced about the perfect form. Mostly, and I think that is also an interesting learning term, is that we came to a consensus where we said, okay, selecting the projects needs to be respecting both. So there was a commitment to tolerate each other's positions, to come to a conclusion that would then allow, as maybe an aesthetics of the Anthropocene, a diversity of forms and postures to be visible through the projects. We did discern tendencies, and they are summarized here very quickly in the dramatizing, the romanticizing, and the everything goes. Because some projects we distinguished as probably having much more to do to have formal, bold, and theatrical expressions, dramatizing. Others would much more be informal, green, and nature-like works, and somewhat also romanticizing what we see as nature. And then there were those that were clearly participatory, consensus-seeking, which could have everything as a form. Everything could go. For us, that was not bad or wrong or good or best, but it was the possible languages of the Anthropocene, time-specific, and the jury was then starting to understand how convincingly a project would forward the individual position, how to convincingly suggest a new beauty in design and in space, and that's what they were judged upon. Aesthetics, we think, in general, is too powerful a tool to leave it to anyone. And there are probably too many societal actors who wish to master aesthetics for all too often dubious ends. So we think as landscape architects, we shouldn't give it away for free. We should take it seriously. And also always think about the agenda behind that project or thing or issue that we are translating into beauty. For whom? The table of content, which you see here, is more or less what structures the book. And according to the discussions we had in the jury, there are two big parts. And these ones I will just browse through quite quickly. But in order to just give you the essence of it, the essence of the content, I'd like to give you a quick hint of what we came up with. So we have a big first part, which groups projects that have to do with what we came to call the promise of tolerance. Somehow coming to grips with the state of Europe as it is today, a very diverse continent with different audiences who share spaces of living which are most often urban, even if they do not necessarily share common beliefs, cultures, and behaviors. And this does not come without conflict. And there we think there is a big task to propose, as a landscape architect, spatial structures, compositions, and atmospheres, or in short, aesthetics, that unleash mediating effects. There are interpersonal and interspecies tolerances that require a physical arena to manifest in everyday life, with the promise of turning conflict into respect, appreciation, coexistence, and engagement with others and otherness. The second part of the book is something we call transitory beauties. And that has to do with our observation that probably landscape as a concept has changed from being understood as a scenery, something static, as a process, something that has a dynamism that is always changing, as I said before. In the Anthropocene, we think that designers now picture the planet Earth totally differently from before. And their aesthetic response helps us to make sense of the current, well, unstable time. You could also say an old order, 20th century is gone. The next one, 21st, is just about to manifest, to become something. And this is where we can still feel ourselves in some sort of intermediate time where we as landscape architects can mobilize our capacities to work with these dynamisms and complexities, with surprise and uncertainties, with systems in motion and with time. So in a way, the project we selected and the projects that were sent to us in general were much more about fostering a transitory aesthetics, not finite, but adaptable, not mastered, but open-ended, celebrating ever-changing appearances and appreciating most often the ambiguity of a situation. Then you see sub-chapters within each of these big ones, and they all invoke the prefixes of in, co, di, and re, which are linked to discourses we also hear a lot today, vocabulary such as inclusion, collaboration, degrowth, recycling. Many of those projects, whatever the aesthetic posture, dealt with exactly that concern, that we are heading towards a new order that might be less progress only, as the 20th century was suggesting to us, but cyclic procedures and a respect for everything that is going into a circle and going to, of course, cater for what we all know, the big word of sustainability. So this exercise in meaning making is more or less what is behind the structure of this book, and this is coming out of the projects that have been sent to us and out of the discussions we have been carrying out all across and with a deep dive into every single project and relating them to the time we are in. So just quick glimpse through the pages of the book. The first part, as I said, is about tolerance. We always mix text pages with the projects proper that are then bringing in all the imagery, but sometimes words are necessary in order to make meaning. Järvabadet, I think the authors are here from Sweden. Over there I see a hand raising. Is a public bath in the outskirts of Stockholm, pretty much of those public places where tolerance can arise because people meet and very physically. It's about the investment, in this case also, of public authorities to create those places. And they are very atmospheric, as you can see from the pictures. That is the north of Europe. If we move more to the west, public spaces are also a category, we think, the foundation of democracy in our societies, and they're often in residential areas where people are having their places of living, which they inhabit, and where there's inclusion at work very much on an everyday basis. Bridgefoot Street Park work with including a lot of waste materials to recycling procedures and then also producing a new public space for this community. It's one of the examples that stood out. In the south of Europe, A topic that I think is common also to most European projects, post-industrial landscapes, and then also the fragmentation of cities, which is often then spatial fragmentation, but leads to a social polarization. And here the act of connecting and correlating becomes of utmost importance. And this path, which is an old one, a historic one that has been updated in order to fit everyday's uses, but still being much more of a reference to what has been there before. It's one of these cyclic projects, post-industrial, but still very contemporary, forward-looking, mastering at the same time effects of climate change. The second part of the transitory designs, again, starts with making sense through interpretations that come with some text, and then also involves projects that sometimes are temporary in the very sense of an exhibition, as here from Lisbon by Margem Arquitectura, and I think the designers are also here, over there, which is telling the story of a city that lives from its watercourses. And that is a communication task more than anything, in order to make people aware of where they live, what topography, how are water arteries, and what is the basis of their life. Will always be, sometimes more technically than in former times, but still of most importance today, where water is an issue everywhere. Then if we go to the east of Europe, and I think the designers are here too, Attila and Thomas from Park Linec in Slovakia. Post-industrial again, you see it's a simple triangle that has been abandoned, and here I think the idea of resistance to forces that are pushing places to the edge of the city, but resourcing what's in them really through also biodiversity measures, as you can see particularly well here with flowering meadow in a country that most likely is used to the English lawn, which is an ubiquitous topos, but more site-specific, of course, will always be these sorts of designs. Wonderful example of resisting and resourcing. And then I think we still have to acknowledge all these landscapes that have been with us for long, historic landscapes, like here, the Englische Anlagen in a German-speaking language in Bern, Switzerland, which are an old park, English style, but they still deserve attention, and sometimes it needs landscape architectural action to reveal them and also to revive them, to make them a place of contemporary living, and also, of course, as you can see here, with these old trees, an immense place of creating biodiversity and catering for the climate. The projects are the main part of the book, but we always, in every edition of Landscape Architecture Europe, include other thoughts, and they come through two types of publications: the portraits, where we select personalities of the profession to be featured, and the essays, where a particular topic gets to the fore. The first portrait is what linked us to here, to today, and to Lilli, because we chose Lilli as an outstanding professional designer and theoretician to be portrayed in this issue of Landscape Architecture Europe. And all her activity, as we have heard so wonderfully from the introductory speech, is, I think, also the basis of what we have been telling her in an interview with Claudia Moll. The next portrait, the second one, is one about a group of people, because designer or design offices to date are not only the one and only heroes, they are collectives more often than not. Tactique has been such one, and I think two of the group are here, over there, Thierry and Simon. Sébastien is the third one, who could not be with us. They do, I think, display a particular poster, and they will talk about it later on today. The two essays have picked upon topics that are particularly dear to us today, acknowledging that Europe is not a closed continent with closed borders, but is living in a context. And the context to Europe, to the south and the east, is something that historically has often been called the Orient. We put a doubt on this term, also we doubt about the proper term, but put it into a relationship. And we're inviting in this essay, directed by me, some straddlers who go from both places or across Europe and somewhere else, Iran, Turkey, Algeria, Egypt, in order to tell us what it means for a landscape architect to live in both worlds and what to learn from them today. Israel, we have here, Turkey, the two proponents I have pictured here. So this is very much of an essay that brings to the fore voices of those who experience Europe from the borders. And finally, we have an essay by Zaj Brezar from Slovenia, should be here, over there. Hi Zaj, who's also the chief editor of Landazine, who has volunteered to expose to us his idea of aesthetics, of public spaces in times of socio-ecological transformation. And he talks about things that too easily get sometimes swept under the rug. And in this essay, he also unpacks what's under there. Quite interesting. And he also brings to us a selection of projects that illustrate these aesthetics or their extremes in a demonstration which I think of these languages of the Anthropocene that could help us understand where we are living and which one posture we would like to take and how we can move on. And I want to close with a quote again by Jan-Dirk Hoekstra, that probably what carries us all along the way in even times that are not so easy to navigate is the joy of working with structures, with materials, with details. And then, dear to all designers, I think that an authentic handwriting and craftsmanship can always add excitement to the environment. And that's something you always see, whatever difficult the situation is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa. We're going to continue. On special requests by Lilli, as you all know, probably, producing a book is a hassle. It's just work, you know, and it's time-consuming, and it frustrates you, and things go wrong. And then, you know, you have to realize that this is already the 7th edition of Landscape Architecture Europe, and all these editions have been designed and produced by Daphne de Bruijn. And Daphne is here to tell you about how that process actually works, you know. And so I think she should already have an applause right now because of the fact that she has done this. So it was Lilli, who knows about how hard it is to make books, that she says it's not only about content, it's also about design. So Daphne, there you go.
Yeah, just like that. Okay. Hello, everybody. It's really nice to meet you all. Lilli asked me to do this, and I gladly accepted, but it's a little bit out of my comfort zone. I've been part of the Landscape Architecture Europe series since the beginning, so that's a long time, and it's been a feast. 20 years ago, I actually just finished the first design sketches for the first book, and today we are presenting the 7th one. Part of this feast is that we do all kinds of things, and one of them is visiting projects with the selection committee and the jury, or the editors, so that's really nice. For me, it's really important when I start the work that all types of stories are told within the book, and that starts with the story of the landscape architect. They make the project, they know what choices they made, they know what creativity they put into the project. So it's really important to have that in front of everything. Then all the projects are presented to the selection committee, and they too make their own story. And during this talks, there are editors involved, and after that, they also make their own story. And finally, we also make our story happen. For this, it's always a real challenge to make all these stories important in a book. And I think I have to take you back to the design of the first series. this was in a time where there were no social media, so presenting all the projects was something you did in a book. These are larger formats, all project-based, and that was good in that time. After that, we started the second duo, and that was still project-based, but it was also about themes. We had to make it a little bit different. But the biggest challenge came with the third series. The social media was all over the place. Offices had the possibility to present their projects everywhere online. So it was not enough to only present the projects anymore. The story of we thought it was more important to put the story of the jury members and the editorial board, of course, in front. And so the thematic essays were the hang-up through the whole book. And along that, the projects of the designers were presented. And now we are at the fourth series, and this is the first book. These days we all know how it works. All the things that you can find online. So we still think that the deeper content is really important, but this time we wanted to change it back to giving the projects the pedestal, actually. I think I would like to show you my journey through the book. Like Lisa already showed, we have a table of contents, and it's always easy to just make that text-based, but as said, we wanted to make the book more project-based. So it felt like we had to do something with the projects. We put them on all the chapters on different spreads, and we try to make them dance across the pages. Oh, it's going really fast. Like that. From top to bottom and the other way around. And then we have the parts of the book. And to make a choice in colors, it felt like I should choose something that's not too bright. We had the theme of aesthetics. So that should be the main thing and not the colors that were in the book. I chose a little bit laid-back colors. Easy to use in darker versions and in lighter versions. So the main part are these two. And then you get into the book. And this is how you end up in the chapters. Here you find the thematic essays, and they have the lighter version of the color below it, all text-based. And after that, you find yourself into the projects on a white basis. All the texts have been hung up on the top of at the top of the page. And it's also always quite a challenge to know what kind of images to choose. All the offices would like to present 50 photos on a page, and I can't do that. I have to take a little bit of white space in the pages. So we use the master plans, but we also have bigger images like this. Lisa already showed it. It's always nice to have somewhere in the book a big image to really get into the project. And of course, we have the pages with several pictures in it. And it's always nice to find pictures that are surprising or whatever. Like here, when you look closely, you see someone diving into the pool. And surprise, funny enough, that person is here in the room. He's the designer of the project. And like this guy, he immediately puts a smile on your face when you see him. This is an example of a project page in which I can tell you how we work with choosing pictures. It's always good to have an overview for the reader. That's on the bottom left. but we also want to show how it's like within the project. On the top right, you always want to show, in what way the project is done or how it came about. It's on the top left, and it's always good to have a special photo like the one on the right corner, down. As said, the whole book has been more project-based, and we wanted to keep the voices of the jury in there. So most of the projects have the jury quotes in them. Also shown by Lisa, we have the portrait of Lilli. That was in a different color scheme, always the bigger picture of the person in front, and then in this case, the tactique portrait with the interview and images that were involved. And then important to have some serene, calm pages in between. And of course, the essays are perfect for that. Mostly text-based. And then the closure of the book. And for me, when I've done that job, it's really a challenge, and it's really nice to think about what, you of course begin before that, but that's when you have to combine everything into the physical book. So you have the color schemes of the Pantone colors, you have the foil print, the maroon colored structured cover paper, and the headbands. And that all became this. So this is the when you open the book. And this is the foil print on the structured linen. And here you can see this is the book block. There are 6 white lanes and the colors in between. The colors are the portraits, the interviews, or the essays, or the beginning of the chapters. But all the white lanes are project-based. So you could see that this is mostly a project-based book. Yesterday, we had the privilege of holding it into our hands for the first time. And that's always a really exciting moment. And going through it, I was proud, of course. And I can only say that I hope that you will feel the same and enjoy reading. Thank you.
Isn't that great? Who of you is connected to the production of this book? Who sent in projects and plans? Hands, please. Quite a number, huh? Any of you were acquainted with the fact that Lilli Lička exists? A few? So that's already a gain of this afternoon that, we meet here. New people meet new people. So that's good. You already saw the name of the office, Tactic. They have got some special attention in the book. And Thierry Kandjee, one of the founding fathers of this office, is present. You're coming, both of you. Okay. So Simon and Thierry will do a duo presentation of the work of Tactic. Thanks.
We just have to find the presentation.
Find the mouse, in fact. I don't know where is it.
We lost the mouse.
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Yeah, here on bottom.
Ah, yeah.
It's working. So, thank you, first of all, for inviting us. Thanks, BOKU and Lilli for organizing this amazing event. And thanks, LAE, for having selected us as a maybe interesting or at least a fruitful practice to be in the book. So I'm not going to talk long. Simon's going to hold the floor later. After the party has two meanings. It talks about how do we deal. We are based in Brussels, Belgium, center of Europe. Our practice is between Paris, Brussels, and Zurich, and now is developing across the tropics. We're going to talk about it later. So this discussion on Orient and Occident is something we have deeply here inside of us, being a form of migrants. So how do we deal with that in contemporary practices? So after the party is about how you design in a momentum in Belgium where we don't have any economy in Brussels, we don't have any government, but there's very strong will to do things coming from the locals, the people who live in Brussels. So we're going to talk about this. What does that mean to design in fragile neighborhoods context, and the other way around? What does that mean to design in more or less top-down processes and trying to embed more inclusive design goals doing that? So the presentation has three parts. The first one is productive friction. The second one is borders. I think we're going to connect that. And the last part is expanded practices. So we were asked by Ari to discuss forms of beauty and how do we tackle that and what does that mean, this term that we never use in the office. So we were saying maybe there's something about this family of project of practices who do things with little means but try to do more. There's something there about the aesthetic of scarcity, but as well something very basic. This kind of image is very common now. In the last 10 years, you see it all over the place. But it integrates the common culture of landscape architecture. If you will do something like this 15 years ago, it would be seen as maybe German, ecological. And now we can do this kind of thing in Belgium. So that's maybe something about what translates between a culture and another. This is my second time in Vienna, and then the last time I came, I didn't see anything. So I'm very happy to have a tour tomorrow with bicycle. And the last time was by an invitation by Lilli in this Helix landscape lecture. So I just took a plane, got out of the plane, and was kind of in a room lecturing and flying back. So I'm very happy to do Vienna differently. So at this time I was talking about our endeavor, our attempt to do this project. This project was not built yet. It was a process. It was a making. And what I shared 10 years ago, it was how do we try to tackle, to act as landscape architect, being here named as a curator of a design biennale in the most fragile space of Brussels, between Brussels, Laeken and Molenbeek. Every single attempt to do a project there was going into fire by the youngsters. So the project is more about, together done with tactic and alive architecture, that now is called alive, then we can have as well redundancy, is about how the project is done by the locals and welcome the guest, which is more or less gentrification. Gentrification, which is completely created, sustained, stimulated by the work of landscape architects. So how do we engage into that processes? And what I would like to talk about is not this image. This is an image of the opening. Is that it was created 10 years ago. It was a successful endeavor to actually make things meet. It's a successful public space. 10 years later, it still has this atmosphere. And when we talk about aesthetic, and maybe the most difficult thing to us to carry on and to sustain, and how are you able to replicate that form of momentum that only exists where the party goes on. So after the party is about how do you continue the party even in times of difficulty. So 10 years ago, we had a publication, and then Michel de Haan, professor in UGent in Belgium, was writing a critique about the project. And that's where we discovered through academic views, so the external lens looking into the work, what we were doing. And in this case, the project was using one simple tool, the combination of bricolage, amateurship made by people with people, and highly precise design coexisting together. So that's where I will disagree with what Lisa said before, that participatory design leads to no design, or kind of design, that is not well controlled. We do the other way around. So maybe we can debate later. So this project was a success, as I said. I went too quick. This is the most important, because Ari was saying you need the subtitle of the presentation is Design as Activist. So I have to talk about this. When we design the Biennale, we design where we act. Where we act is under this bridge. Why do we act under this bridge? It's because the next space is owned by the biggest private developer of Brussels, who own 40 hectares of a railway land. This should have been in any other European city, bought or owned by the public authorities. So here, in the context of 2014, we had to fight to make this ground public. And in order to do that, we had to put pressure on the very edge of the site between public-owned space and private-owned. At the time of the project done by Basmet, the owner of the site wanted to close the site. So to close the accessibility of 40 hectares of the biggest open space of Brussels. This is what we do here, claiming the opening of a site by steering successful design. So this kind of endeavor has been discussed. Biennale Rotterdam, 2016. And then we try to use the same kind of tools in a later project, trying to work on a heritage site, Garden City, made by Louis van der Smalen. Again, an artistic commission, so we work as well beyond normative commission. These two projects are working with artistic commission. And here the goal was to say, we were being asked, how can you manage through design to make 3 generations of migrants meet? The first generation is Belgium, Italian, Spanish. The second one is Eastern European. The third generation is North African. And they just can't coexist in this garden city. This place is the core of the garden city, and it's a lost space, used to be privately owned by expats who don't live there and play tennis. So we use this use left over a tennis court, and did with the inhabitant of the site a collective endeavor to reopen it in order to reassess the geography of the site. Working with the African kids, taught more or less helped by the first generation of migrants. And this project we tried to apply to LAE with the following motto: how come that with the same tool of park design 2014, we try to apply them in a different project, and it's just failing. So we tried to write about how do we learn from failing, and we thought that in a publication of landscape, we should discuss that matters as well, which is quite more or less invisible. We only communicate success, which I think is a mistake.
So what I want to share also with you is the question of the non-neutral or unneutrality of creating public space. It does not create consensus anytime. It's impossible. It is always a struggle of values. The question then is, how do we go beyond the role of designer? So that's why crossing. How can we play the role of activist, defending the place of and voice of those who have none? How does open space play a symbolic and political role? Many people say, no, it's not political, it's just landscape, or it's not political, it's just architecture, and it's impossible. We invest the public space, so for us it's really important to claim that. In the project of Place du Châtelain, in Brussels, in a very chic neighborhood of Brussels. We asked ourselves this question: how do you transform? I don't have the picture. How do you transform a parking into a public square? That seems easy, but what kind of square, for whom, for what purpose? Of course, the aim was to give space back to living soil, to vegetation. We know that, to contribute to cooling and comfort of urban life. But beyond that, how do you welcome, invite and organize the condition of living together, allowing for confrontation with otherness? You speak about that before, with otherness, how we can create the condition of that. To do this, we design a garden square, an inclusive space with a large lawn for children's play, and above all, a large deck. So that is, the blue line is a large deck, you can see after. The large deck protects a forest grove and offer multiple use. So multiple ways to settle, to occupy the space, to coexist, for children play, for individual, alone or in group, but also a space for homeless. Of course, we never say that when we do the competition, when we talk with the client, it's a deck for everybody. We are convinced that there's unusual dimensions, the falls, and the fact that it brings surprise, forcing people to invent ways to appropriate it. We generate encounters and moments of life. And we weren't disappointed because since its completion, despite the climate and the period, it has been open since October, so just in a cold weather in Brussels, many rain. But when you have a rain of sunshine, it's totally crazy. Everybody uses that. And when we return, we are always surprised by how the space is used. So, yeah. A big rabbit, for example, in the groves. Yeah. And another recent project, what I want to share, a competition for the Royal Palace Garden. So here is not the same issue. It's not about avoid. Yeah, it's open the space. So which will present this next Friday, and the gardens on the Royal Palace are inaccessible for the public. So it's posing the question of what is the role of a garden? It's a form of cultural expression, so it's also a political art. What is the role, the message of the garden today? How do we move from a royal garden, a symbol of power, to a place of refuge, a radical garden that nurtures intercultural exchange, a space for creolization capable of hosting the unwanted living beings, the traveling and resistant plants, and the vulnerable plants. Also, this garden is protected for human presence. How does it incorporate a principle of reciprocity? So, becoming a space of residence, a curatorial space for non-human life, and also for reinventing creative and artistic management modes. A new space for partnership between landscaper, bioacoustic artists, to surprise the observers, the tourists. They are just beyond the wall. So how we can play with the sound to give a voice for the plants beyond the wall of the garden. So that is more or less our type of work. With our practice, we constantly seek to question our modus of engagement. What is the designer roles? Because our way of working is to fight against a unilateral voice. It could be a nice voice, and of course, everybody here, I think, want to have less parking, and okay, but or we can have all the voice, the public voice, the people voice, to avoid monopolizing the imagination. It's also a way, I think, to change the aesthetic and reinterpret every time the landscape. So maybe it's linked with the identity of Tactic. So Tactic was founded in Rotterdam by Thierry and Sébastien. You see the picture before. Then established itself between Barcelona and Paris, after in Brussels, and with projects and research carried in Asia, Australia, North Africa, so also a link, you say that, between Occident and Orient, a confrontation, a coexistence between their cultures. And then, because tactic evolves by integrating 2 new partners now. So Tania comes from Paris, but she's an Italian Venice girl, and me. So one way for us to avoid the monopolizing imagination is to share. Not keep knowledge to ourselves, but when we're working on the project to share with the citizen, we try to have a different approach. We are not just landscape architects. We try to find new word, maybe new approach, some fragility also, a gardener, craftsman, walker, painter. So that is our approach when we arrive in a context of a realization. So less imposing style. I mean, we don't know anything. We learn every time, and so that is really important for us. And also because this is done through a variety of formats, going beyond the project, working on artistic commissions, participating in festivals, writing, painting, yeah. And so the goal is to constantly feed on all the possible approaches and encounters and share them wherever we can. The last slide is a small video, just 1 minute, a sort of dialogue between 2 projects. So the project of LAFI, the crack, Thierry shows that, how we can draw with a machine saw, and a project in a festival, how we can paint and have a time of peaceful inside a really strong festival.
On va le faire.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Now we have a time problem, Lilli. So I just want to check, you know, is it okay if we stay a bit longer than 6, for example? Because not in this room. We have, of course, a sort of a reception, and there will be drinks and stuff and music. But the official closure time was 6 o'clock, and I think we're not good to make it.
Well, that was a mistake.
That was a mistake, right? What about these persons? You're all, yeah, you're okay with a half an hour extra. You will get an extra drink afterwards, okay? Huh? Yeah, okay, good. All right. Lilli, the program says I'm going to interview you.
It says a conversation.
A conversation, okay. Let me introduce the conversation with two schemes. This conversation is called the triangulation of Lilli Lička.
He's a teacher, you must know.
I'm also a teacher, yeah. So this is the first triangle, and this is the second one. Let's put it like this. It's not really, it's not bad. So this is called life, maybe, your life. So it's about, let's call it activism. Let's call it academia. let's call it advisory work. So you can start thinking, because the question will be, where would you put yourself somewhere in this triangle? Understand? Okay, and then because this is about academia, of course, she's saying goodbye to academia, which means that she will have more time to do this and this. But this is like, the academia is like a reflection. So I'm also curious to hear you talk about education. So looking back on your long job, your long contract, as an educator, as a researcher, and as a valorizer of scientific know-how and findings and observations and conclusions. So this triangle is actually, it's sort of this triangle again, you see? So this is this one. Okay? Clear? You're with me? Yeah? Okay. And as you know, everything firm has to stand on 3 legs. You know, if it's 2 legs, you fall over, but 3 legs stands firm. So Lilli, explain us. Where would you find yourself in this triangle, and where would you find yourself in this triangle? And then let's see if we can elaborate.
Well, is this working?
It is.
First of all, let me thank my predecessing speakers for their interesting introduction to the book and everything which is related to contemporary landscape architecture. And I think some of that is also probably part of the answer, because I find it really crucial that the things we do at in academia or in the rest of our professional lives, and probably the rest as well, does have some relation to the timeline in which we are in. So looking back and forth and forward is something which I find really important, and I think this is also valid for the profession and of landscape architecture. This is about landscape architecture.
Be a little lower.
No, yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't know, I think there's a reason we didn't talk about these triangles before, so this is new to me.
This is a complete
I feel
surprise.
like I'm in an exam. So
No. It's not meant to be.
No.
All answers are good answers.
I think probably if you want me, it's probably a circle around it where I go from one to the other. But would you like me to draw a spot or something?
Yeah,
the past,
within this triangle, where would you put yourself? You know, where would you put
well, probably further that way.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting.
Yes, that area. Advisory was part of it, but not the main. And between those two, there's a strong connection as well. I mean, there's connections between everything. But probably in the last 22 years, when I had the pleasure to be a professor here at BOKU, that was the main focus. So I would probably put myself here.
Somewhere there. Okay. And how much activism was... It's a very modest spot. Almost invisible.
Well, I did it with many other people, you know, that's why.
Yeah. Okay. So how much room for activism is there or was there in academia as you experienced it?
Well, in academia, there's not such a lot of space for activism itself.
No.
I mean, you can have activism as part of research concepts. You can have activism with students, for instance, as part of teaching, or perhaps also as part of imparting some knowledge about activism and the role it plays in landscape architecture, but also in urban planning or in the development of different kinds of aesthetics, perhaps even. So it does have a strong connection. But of course, I don't know which activism you refer to specifically, but I would say that it is very fruitful to have the experience of activism, to be within academia and be able to, to push the envelope, right. I would say, and the other way around.
Right. So what Thierry and Simon just referred to as engagement. Maybe that covers better what motivates you as well, societal engagement.
Yes.
The profession has to be actively working with how society works and how society changes.
I do agree.
That would
I
be
strongly
also your
agree.
statement, yeah.
I think we are part of it all, so there's no way around it. We have the responsibility to create spaces which are supporting a just society, for instance. But also we have to find ways to engage everyone and every different group within the society in the making of our environment. So I think this active part is a crucial basis for many of our activities.
Okay. By the way, if you think now I have to add something or mention something, you're welcome to step in. Eh? If it's a decent remark, you're welcome to do it, to make it. Okay. So advisory work has been a little bit out of your daily worries, maybe, also because it was a full-time employment. Eh? Not many people have time to do other things than being a full-time professor.
Full-time professor means full-time.
Yes,
in fact,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course there was some advisory beyond this full-time job, which was really very, very interesting. I must say, I was very fond and glad to be able to be part of some of the commissions I did, because they taught me different ways of looking at things. But of course, advisory is somehow also part of academia. So there you have a similar relation, probably, as we have on this side of the triangle.
I guess so. Yeah. Did you bring students to advise to clients, for example?
We did bring students to clients at several occasions.
Part of their training, part of their susceptibility to sort of respond to people, owners, developers, and all that.
I mean, in our institute, we always looked for so-called real-life settings, which includes the people you work for in both meanings, the people who are your clients or future clients and will pay you, perhaps, eventually, but also the other side of the people who are dealing with the products or have the problems, bring in the challenges and everything.
Yeah. I know scholars and researchers and even professors as well in Delft, they say, no, that should not happen. I mean, academia is another branch. It's just another factory. It's another industry. It shouldn't copy what's happening outside. You know, it has all the legitimation of being focusing on knowledge. What do you think about that? What's your opinion?
I do think we are, of course. Academia does have to produce knowledge, new insights, collect insights from other research perhaps as well. But you have to be aware of the situation in every country, and here in Austria especially. The education at the University of Landscape Architects is for a majority of about 90% teaching future professionals.
Right.
And they have to have an academic background. They have to have a foundation of their profession, which is about theory, is about processes and the knowledge of history, for instance.
Yes.
But of course, if you teach someone to be out there in the profession, you have to have a connection to it. So I think it's in that segment, it's obvious that it's necessary to go out, and that's probably very, very true for our profession. Perhaps less true for microbiology. I don't know, I don't know.
So that makes landscape architecture somewhat different in its necessity to relate to outdoor realities.
But also there's another issue related to that, which is that there has to be a connection also between academia and the world out there. So it's about real-life projects created for students to be able to discuss it with mayors, with groups of stakeholders, with everybody. But also the mayors and the stakeholders, they have to know about the questions which are dealt with within academia. So it doesn't help if there's a separation and a huge gap between it. It's always it has been a real challenge, but also a strong impetus for myself to bridge that gap.
Yeah. Okay. So do you feel comfortable with the triangle in that sense, that it's sort of, it's three poles on which something stands firm? You can.
Yeah. Well, now that we've talked about it, I like it.
Good. Then let's move to the next one, just briefly. Yeah. Where would you put yourself here? This is about education, research, and valorization, bringing it to society. What you just mentioned.
Yeah. Well, here.
That's a difficult one.
No.
No.
No, it's easier.
Okay.
Here.
Somewhere there. Okay.
And a bit bigger.
Yeah. That's 20 years of experience. Yeah. 22 years, he said. Yeah. Okay. So mainly an educator.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Probably more than. It's also a question of time which you have, and education takes. I mean, you are obliged
full-time.
to. Yes,
full-time.
But within that full time, there's always different tasks to fulfill.
Yeah.
And education is one of them. And education, you can't. You can't sneak out because you have these courses, you have the students,
expectations,
and they are right in their question to get something from you. They want something from you, and I think you can very strongly relate. You can very strongly support people when you teach, but also there you have to sort of find a way to bring research into your teaching.
Right.
So research-led teaching is one of the points which are interesting, and which I try to do to some extent as well.
Sorry, what does that mean? It means including students in your research themes. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
And both ways. I mean, including them in research themes, but also informing them about research, and research results, which we have done or our colleagues have done internationally, but also at our institute, for instance.
And you're a bit out of the valorization corner, making money out of your work, or trying to be relevant, trying to be accessible to outside organizations who could profit from your research findings or your educational outputs.
I'm not sure if I understand. Making money was never my strong point. No.
Okay. I know many scholars who have a very strong tendency to, express their success also in terms of what kind of.
But I don't know what you. I think what is really, really important is that, as was said before with the invited speakers, that you bring in people into education and research, and by that also have an information the other way around. So that's what I said before. I think that's important, and valorizing in the sense that you look at the results of professionals, look at the results of perhaps also academic projects, and then try to create new insights. That's something which, of course, is part of the whole game.
Right. Do you think it was wise to have these first 10, 15 years or so in practice before you started to educate young people? Has that been an important
wisdom is a strong word for that.
Sorry?
Wisdom is a strong word.
Wisdom, well, experience.
But it was very helpful.
I guess so, yeah.
It was very helpful, and it was one of my... it was the strongest...
wish, ambition.
Yes, another one.
Aspiration.
Perhaps the reason why I went for this whole professorship, because I came out of practice, and I felt that there was a huge lack of support by academia for the profession, and in terms of being present in public, in terms of speaking out for something, for topics, for decisions, for processes, but also delivering usable and useful results.
Right.
So I felt some kind of a lack there, and that was my ambition to perhaps...
and motivation.
Motivation.
That's the word.
Thank you.
That's the word we were looking for. Yeah. Okay, so we have projected you into these two triangles. So Lilli is here, and Lilli's here.
Yeah, but of course, you know, you have these other...
Yeah, your colleagues. What would you be? Where would you be without your colleagues? Yeah,
nowhere.
They have something in a surprise after. That's why I was concerned about the time. But
okay.
You don't know this, but now you know. The colleagues will show up later in the program. Okay, maybe to finalize, I would say also read the interview that is published in this beautiful book, 50% discount today, only today, so take a book, buy a book. Is the image I get, the impression I get is that landscape architecture, landscape design has gone through a tremendous emancipatory trajectory over the last 25 years or so. You graduated not even as a landscape designer, or did you? No, you're only a landscape ecologist or something like that.
Well, in fact, it was called landscape ecology and landscape design.
Okay, that's a difficult
The
abbreviation.
name was there.
The name was there, but it was sort of hidden, so sort of an annex, so to speak. And you took it out of its annex situation, position, and made it into a situation in which sort of it was nourished, it flourished, and it's sort of existing right now. Am I right?
Yes, I hope so.
I think you were one of the factors behind this whole emancipation.
I might have been, yes.
Yeah.
That was my motivation and ambition.
I can imagine.
And I think talking about where we stand now and where we started, I think of course, the profession itself has also a strong role to play.
Absolutely.
It's always an interaction between many kinds of players. But bringing the landscape architecture as a design discipline, or as a discipline which includes and is strongly based on design, into the University of Natural Resources, which this university is called, this is something I found really interesting. I'm very happy that this happened, and I succeeded in supporting this process.
So what's next? You're not old yet. You are still young. So are you going to go to this part of the triangle for the coming years? What's your ambition or motivation in that sense?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
I would like to continue to... I would like to read more books.
Ah, that's another thing. Well, is one available?
Because
15% discount.
I would like to continue my occupation with public spaces and parks mainly. So there's some of this academic's heart of mine still...
That will never die. Yeah?
It will never die.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
I will definitely continue the activism, because that's also not only something which I find important to thematize and to bring things to the fore, but it's also fun.
Yeah.
And I want to have fun. So that's something.
That's also talking about motivation. That's a very good motivation. I think this is enough for now, conversation-wise. Thank you very much, Lilli.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So, yeah, you can stay,
I have
stay here.
Yeah, I would like...
Oh, you would like to say something?
I would like to say something.
Address to the audience. I'm going to go modestly
Well, thank
aside.
you all very, very much for coming. And I'm very, very fond of this combination of the presentation of the book and my farewell party, which is going to happen in a few minutes, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, you'll see. You'll see.
I'm very thankful to the university who gave me the chance to do this, and I'm very happy that I had the pleasure to work with students, with colleagues, with external lecturers. We had 30 external lecturers here, and thanks to you all. But I would definitely like to thank most my colleagues of the Institute of Landscape Architecture who continue the work and who make me really happy to leave at this stage, because I think they're in a very, very good shape. And they have interesting and intriguing projects, and they continue to fight for the improvement of landscapes in many different ways. And I would like to name them now. This is the way I always do this, is I go through the institute room by room.
Yeah.
So so I don't forget anyone. So it doesn't have a different order. So thank you very, very much. I start in the
back in the right
back
room.
Left corner.
Left corner, okay.
This is Roland Tusch.
All right.
He's also following me as a head of the institute for the time until the new professor will be appointed. And I was really very, very happy to work with you. We shared experience in collaboration before academia even, and we continued to do so. And I'm very happy to have a very kind and thoughtful person and competent person on my side. He was my deputy all the time, almost. Then Ulrike Krippner, I haven't seen her. She's not here. She was my partner in historical terms, so we did a lot together. She did a lot of excellent research in the professional history, and we built up the archive together, Roland, Ulrike, and myself, and she's the scholarly head of the institute. Of the archive. In between the two, there's Dagmar Grimm-Brettner. I left her out, who was part of the commission who appointed me, and I'm very happy for that as well. And then there's a vivid new chamber of young people, Jenny Faustar, and who does her PhD. Oh, there she is, and Emily, and some new people come in and out in that room, who I don't always know. But thank you, the two of you who are here. It was a great pleasure. And Cornelia Kosalka, is she here? Where is she?
On the back.
Connie, could you come here, please? Connie, can you please come out? Can you come here? This might look strange to you, but it isn't. Connie is our secretary, and without her I wouldn't have made it. And I would like to express my thanks for your support through all those years. Danke, Connie. And then there's a rather new member of our team, Dominik Rosner, who's a professional. Well, he's very good in graphic design. He's very good in technical things. He built up the online, or he's part of the team who built up the online access for the archive and many, many other things. Thank you very much, Dominik, for your help in any kind of situations. And with him in the room, because it's about archive and digitization, is Valerie. I don't know where she's here. Thank you as well. The first corridor is almost done.
How many corridors are there?
There's a western and an eastern, so it's also
okay.
Julia Backhausen-Nikolic. I'm very, very glad I could work with you. You're very supportive, and you're very excellent in teaching and organizing all these external lecturer teams who are an important part for the development of our teaching at the Institute. Thank you, all the lecturers who are there too. But thank you, Julia. It was very, very pleasant to work with you. And then we go back and cross the to the other end. Jürgen Furchtlehner, he's finishing his PhD on the transformation of streetscapes, sometime, and and was a partner in many research projects, together also with Daniela Lehner, who is not only a partner in our research projects, but also works with Roland Tusch in an arts-based research project about the development of the Wachau landscape. So Dani, I really appreciate your contributions as well. Thank you. Gerhard Kainz is one of the people without whom the archive wouldn't exist, probably, at least not in the way it does, because he is there organizing, archiving all the documents which you professional landscape architects out there will hand in the future, I hope. So it's going to be saved for future research and interested other people. So thank you, Gerhard. It was a important contribution as well. And last but not least, Roland Wück, with whom I had the pleasure to do many student competitions together outside the curriculum, which was one of the ways which helped connect to the communities out there, to different places in all over Austria and beyond. And it was a lot of fun as well. So thank you very much, Roland, for that collaboration. And I think this is the core team, and of course I can't name all of the other people. Ah, Sabine! No, I haven't. I missed the other side of the corridor.
There's more corridors.
See, that happens. So I go back and miss you, and go to the other side. There's well, then if you go back, it's Sabine Plank. She's our plant specialist, and she's teaching planting design, and is really, really good in not only contemporary solutions for planting, but also connecting to very important people in the European network, and a very friendly part of our team as well. And Cecilia Furlan, she is, yes. She's a true academic and works really hard on her habilitation, and and I'm very, very happy that you contribute a different scale to our design in terms of landscape architecture and urbanism, but also in terms of internationality and collaborations. So thank you very much for that.
Quite a team, huh? Lilli, please stay here, stay in front, because I'm going to hand you, as of course the guest of honor of this meeting, the book first. So you have this. You're the first one to have it in your hands, and as you heard Daphne say, well, she was of course the first one, but. You're the one that is going to have this as a present, as a token of appreciation by everybody in the room, and especially the Landscape Architecture Europe crew, who included a beautiful interview with you in the book. So read it and be happy. Okay?
Thank you so much. I'm very, very fond of these publications because they show projects which go beyond everything you see in the shiny magazines.
Absolutely.
And I had the pleasure to be in the selection jury several years ago, and it was a hard work, but it was very, very rewarding. So thank you for everyone who contributed to this book, and especially to Claudia Moll, who interviewed me. Tough interview of 1.5 days, I think. But I'm sure writing it was even more tough. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. Yeah. Representative from IFLA Europe, Attila Todt. His name was mentioned before. He was also one of the producers of the of a project in the book. There you go. Here it is. You have it? Yeah? You had a small word of appreciation prepared, I think.
Oh,
did you?
I might have.
Yes, okay, please. You can use the microphone.
So, well, thank you for handing it over. And I have a few words from my dear friend Katerina Golciu, President of IFLA Europe. She would be very happy to be here today because she wrote also the foreword, so I will not repeat her words, which are written there. But I think she wrote that especially the 7th edition is a really nice one, and I brought it out from her comments in the book. And I just would like to say congratulations, maybe not saying it as on behalf of IFLA Europe, but on behalf of the European community of landscape architects, because I think the work which the editors, the producers, the jury members, and also the contributors have done in the last 20 years since the book has been published, this is already the 7th edition, is very important because the work which is being done by landscape architects needs to be shown. It might be an inspiration for students, for professionals, and also for everyone who is fond of landscapes. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have 4 books. So, next is Thierry. Please, can you step over? We have 1 book per office, sorry. So, you can either share it or... You take the second part. Let's try to see if it's so. On behalf of the selection committee, the editorial committee, and the publisher, thank you for your contribution of today as well. So here you go. Photo. Yeah, good. And last but definitely not least.
Say something? Can I say something?
Sorry, yeah, of course.
Time is running. Time is running.
I'm trying to hurry up
2 minutes.
now.
We are French. We take a lot of time.
That's right.
I talk fast. Thanks for being here again. And then what I want to say is that I was part of the committee with Lilli some years ago, and I had a mindset that maybe LAE was too much promoting build projects. So even the notion of project was a bit narrow. So I'm very happy to see that LAE 7 is introducing new forms of practices, endeavor, because at this very much time, maybe we're going to build less and do differently. So I'm very looking forward for new forms of practice being more recognized and acknowledged. And I'm very happy that this community of practice exists through LAE. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the last one, and now the circle is round, because Frau Rector said there's a perfect representative of me, because she had to leave a bit earlier. Your name is Doris Damjanovic.
Yeah, landscape planner.
Good. So he is as a representative of the institute as well, of the faculty or the sector. How's it called?
It's landscape planning, Institute of Landscape.
Institute of Landscape Planning. So she will take the 4th book. Here you are.
It's working.
Thank
you.
Here you are. Just wait for the picture. Yeah, there it is.
Thank you very much.
Want to say something? Or
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, congratulations to the book, and thank you, Lilli, to be professor for a very long time in landscape architecture. And we are very proud that it's one of the biggest programs what we have at the moment at the BOKU, landscape planning and landscape architecture, in the bachelor program and then also in the master program. So I think it's a good success. And we hope it's going on, and the appointment is hopefully as early as we can manage it at the rectorate. So we are very happy that it's going on, and congratulations you again.
Good. Can I please ask you to take your seats, because we have a surprise presentation From the colleagues, you already thanked so full-heartedly, but now they want to thank you in return with a stroboscopic presentation. So we have to take this down, yeah. I think you can sit down just and relax, yeah.
It's time to say thank you, and we apologize that we switched to German for that, but we have subtitles for that. So, liebe Lilli, fürs Institut ist es Zeit, Danke zu sagen, und das ist nicht mit einem Satz getan.
Liebe Lilli, danke für deine starke Stimme, für die Disziplin und für das Studium.
Thanks for Alex lecture series with international speakers.
Dear Lilli, thank you for your inspirational and for your experiential voice that comes into the learning environment and specifically seen here at the Landscape Laboratory St. Margareten.
Vielen Dank für deinen Einsatz für einen attraktiven Modellbauraum mit Tageslicht.
Ja. Aha.
Danke für neue Drehstühle statt Rückenschmerzen.
Ja, danke Lilli für viele inspirierende Exkursionen und die vielen gemeinsamen Diskussionen.
Danke für die Integration der Pflanzenverwendung mit dem Staudengarten in das ILA.
Thanks again for your activism.
And thank you very much for establishing Landschaft Lernen als große Ausstellung.
Ja, und danke Lilli für das immer gute Arbeitsklima am Institut, deine motivierende Art und deine Good Vibes.
Danke für die Feste und das gemeinsame Feiern mit oder ohne Kässpätzle. Es war immer großartig, immer ein Vergnügen.
Danke auch für deine Tätigkeiten abseits des Büroalltags, zum Beispiel mit dem Büro für lustige Angelegenheiten.
Danke für die Studierendenwettbewerbe als Forschungsfeld und als Vorbereitung für die Praxis.
Danke für die Etablierung des Archivs.
Danke für unsere neu gewonnenen Magnetwände und dass wir dadurch auch in der Zukunft immer zusammenhalten.
Danke für die gemeinsame Zeit.
Danke für mehr als über 100 betreute Abschlussarbeiten.
Wertschätzung für die großen und auch für die kleinen Dinge. Danke.
Ein weiteres Danke an die Einrichtung der Duschen, sodass wir mit dem Fahrrad den Weg hochfahren können und in der Zukunft auch bei Klimawandel und exhausting days duschen können.
Ja, danke auch für deinen großen Anspruch an Design und Ästhetik.
Danke für deinen Sinn für Gerechtigkeit, nicht nur in der Forschung, sondern auch darüber hinaus.
Danke für die Sportevents, damit wir als Team immer fit sind und sportlich am Institut weiterarbeiten.
Danke für deine Good Connections, internationales, nationales Netzwerk in diverse Institutionen, das du so wunderbar pflegst.
Ja, und danke für gefühlte 100 Jahre IFLA.
Und jetzt? Der Frühling hat begonnen. Das Institut blüht. Wir sind am Start zu neuen Abenteuern. Du bist am Start zu neuen Abenteuern. Dafür wünschen wir dir alles Gute.
Shall we have a drink? Yeah, that's probably the best way.
Thank you so much.
Look at that.
Oh, here are the drinks.
What is it? You want to say something else? No, you want. Okay, Lilli says it's done. So thank you for attending this meeting, and thank you for presenting. In the Netherlands, this would be done singing, but I guess you're not just such singers. No, you first have to take 2 beers before you start singing. Yeah. So thank you, Lilli. You want to sort of, you invite them to the bar.
Yes.
Is that a good idea?
Thank you for the organizers, the event management, the recorders, and everybody who's technically and organizationally involved in this day. And this includes this drink, which we are going to have now, and you can also have food, which is outside this room. And I hope I can talk to some of you this evening and in the future. Thank you very much.
Lilli.